I mean, I wouldn't use California as an example just because California is a complete fucking disaster.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to A Conversation with Colin. I'm Greg, and this is my roommate, Colin. Now, sometimes Colin here, he says crazy stuff. So every Tuesday and Thursday, we threw a new topic of conversation at him. He responds to him. He has no idea what is on my little cards here of conversations. He gets one every Tuesday, Thursday, gets to talk about it. Colin, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, if you're ready at home, like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Today's topic of conversation is the Electoral College. What's its fucking deal, Colin? Like, we all we go vote, and but the world doesn't America doesn't trust us enough to count our own votes. I have to have some other guy go and do it?
Yeah, I mean, so the Electoral College is really an old idea, and it makes perfect sense when you really think about it. Back after the Revolution was over and we were drafting the Constitution in the late 1780s,
Of course.
smaller states had a concern that the bigger states would trounce them electorally if they had bigger populations. So when you think about states like Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, Massachusetts, the bigger states back then,
Yeah.
they would dwarf electorally the states with smaller populations if it was just proportional based on the electorate of those states. So a state like Georgia or Delaware or Maryland would just not have a voice. So in order to balance that,
Yeah.
they said you will vote for electors that will then cast a vote, quote unquote, at the national level, and so the electoral votes would go and count more for the smaller states. So a state like Delaware has 3 electoral votes. That's the fewest you can have: 2 senators and a congressman.
Uh-huh.
And that would proportionally weigh higher against something like Pennsylvania than it would if you were just to count the votes by popular vote. So it makes perfect sense, actually.
It doesn't make any sense. It's one of those things. We live in California.
Yes.
In California, you can't agree on anything.
No.
I don't understand it's not like we're all a hive mind, that we all have the same beliefs and values, so that all of a sudden, one state would be the Democratic state and one would be a Republican state. And I just realized how enthralling this conversation is for our international listeners. But isn't that an outdated idea now? I mean, you live in San Francisco. You know everyone here has a bunch of batshit ideas. They don't listen to each other. Wouldn't it be one idea that dominates everything?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't use California as an example just because California is a complete fucking disaster. But when you, it's not about. It's just a wacky place.
Yeah.
But think about it this way. Even today, think about a state like Wyoming. Wyoming has very few people, under 1 million. But they have certain things that must be dealt with at a federal level, like for instance, ranching and farming and stuff like that, things that maybe the agriculture department will have to deal with and stuff like that. But if you were just to take their electorate of maybe 100, 150,000 people that actually vote there, and the needs of Wyoming would be drowned out by the millions and millions and millions of people that vote in California, and so their voice would never be heard. But if you give them 3 electoral votes, even though California has many more than that, many more than that, they still count a little bit higher. It gives them a little bit more of a voice. So it makes the small states feel like they have something to say. And I don't mean small states just geographically. Again, I mean small states by population. Because a bigger state, Rhode Island's a good example of a state with a bigger population than you would think of the size of the state. And Massachusetts is the same way. Vermont has no people, Wyoming has no people, the Dakotas have no people. And those people wouldn't have a voice at the national level if the Electoral College didn't exist, at least in terms of presidential politics.
So, I mean, I guess. It's down to 2 people when it comes to president every year.
Yeah.
And is one going to be like, well, fuck agriculture, and the other guy's like, I'm pro-agriculture, and then Wyoming's going to be like, everybody, you have to vote for the agriculture guy.
Yeah, that's just an example. I'm just saying that, a state like Delaware was the first to ratify the Constitution because of something like the Electoral College, because none of those states would have ratified the Constitution, those smaller states, if we didn't have the Electoral College in place, because they were afraid of being drowned out at the national level. So if you actually change the Electoral College by amendment, you would have to kind of wonder if the Constitution in itself would have to be ratified again, not because of any other reason, but this is the way that a lot of states accepted the federal bond that we had after the Revolution. And so it's not something that will easily be changed. It's something that will never be changed, even though a lot of people don't understand it and a lot of people don't like it. I think there's a rational, realistic reason why it exists, and I actually don't think it affects the big states at all, so people don't really need to worry about it. If you got rid of it, the small states would suffer. The big states wouldn't suffer. The big states actually would have all the say. New York and California and Texas would basically dominate everything.
Huh. Well, they already do, though.
Not really. I mean, those states don't turn. Texas is always going to vote Republican, and those states always vote Democrat. But when you think about the sheer amount of people in those states, and then you take everything in the middle of the country and put it into a ball, and it has the same population as those 3 states, that's problematic at a national level, and it's not fair.
Okay. Well, Colin, I think that about wraps up this conversation. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to us here on YouTube, youtube.com/GameOverGreggy. Then check back every Tuesday and Thursday where I will shove a new topic into Colin's head, and we'll see what he says about it. Until then, I hope you have a conversational day.